This is not the kind of history written in golden ink or printed inside expensive textbooks. This is the history that breathes in broken homes, that hides inside tired eyes, that lives in the hands of people the world used but never remembered. The morning sun rose over a land that looked peaceful from far away. Fields stretched wide, birds crossed the pale sky, and a slow river curved through the valley like a silver thread. But if someone stood close enough, they would hear something deeper than birds or wind. They would hear the quiet sound of survival, the sound of people living lives that never make it into history lessons. In a small settlement near the river lived a boy named Samir. His house was made of tin sheets and old wood. The roof spoke loudly when it rained, and the walls shook when trucks passed on the distant road. Yet his mother called it home with pride because it was the only thing they had not lost. Samir did not wake up to alarm clocks or school bells. He woke up to his mother coughing softly as she lit a small stove. He knew the cough meant the smoke was thick again. The cheap fuel burned their throats, but warmth was more important than comfort. Hunger was louder than health. His father once owned a small piece of farmland near the river. The soil was rich and dark. Crops grew strong. Life felt stable. But one year men came with papers and stamps and official voices. They said the land now belonged to a project that would bring development, jobs, and progress. They promised compensation that never arrived. They promised relocation that never happened. They promised a better future that no one in the village ever saw. Samir was too young to understand laws, but he understood the day his father came home silent, carrying soil in his hands, as if he were saying goodbye to a friend. The land was cleared. Machines arrived, trees fell, the river was forced into new paths, and a factory slowly rose where crops once grew. Smoke began to paint the sky gray, the same sky that once looked endless and blue. Schools in the nearby city taught students about economic growth, industrial success, and national pride. They showed pictures of shining buildings and busy roads, but they never showed the villages that disappeared to make space for those pictures. Samir started working before he learned how to dream. He helped his father carry bricks at construction sites in the city. The buildings were tall and beautiful, glass walls shining in the sun, balconies facing the river. Apartments sold for more money than his family would see in 10 lifetimes. He mixed cement. While rich families discussed interior design, he carried steel rods while advertisements promised luxury living. He built homes he would never enter, cities he would never belong to. At night the workers slept on thin mats, inside unfinished rooms. The wind passed through empty window frames. They shared stories instead of blankets, stories of lost farms, lost houses, lost chances. Each man had a past buried under the word progress. One evening, an old woman joined the construction site to cook for workers. Her face was lined like dry land, her voice soft but strong. She listened more than she spoke. One night, she asked Samir where he came from. He told her about the river, the farm, the factory, the smoke. She nodded and said a village was drowned under a dam years ago. She helped carry stones to build that dam. She believed it would bring electricity and hope. The lights reached cities, but her home sank underwater. She said sometimes history is built by the same hands it erases. Samir felt something shift inside him. He realized his story was not alone. It was one thread in a huge invisible cloth made of forgotten lives. He started noticing things he once ignored. The way security guards pushed workers aside when company owners visited. The way speeches talked about national strength but never about worker injuries. The way newspapers printed numbers but not names. That night he could not sleep. He kept hearing the old woman say history is built by the same hands it erases. The next morning he found a small notebook in the trash near the site office. Only a few pages were used. It picked it up, dusted it off, and for the first time in his life he wrote something not because a teacher told him to, but because his heart felt too heavy to stay silent. He wrote his father's name, his mother's name, the name of his lost village, the river, the farm, the day machines came, the day smoke replaced birds. His handwriting was uneven, but his memory was clear. Slowly other workers noticed. They laughed at first, then one by one they came at night and shared their stories. Samir wrote about a man whose brother died in a mine collapse that never reached the news. About a woman who stitched factory uniforms for soldiers but could not afford medicine for her child. About a family pushed from the roadside because a shopping mall needed more parking space. The notebook grew heavier with each name. Months later, an accident happened at the site. A worker fell from high scaffolding. The company called it unfortunate but unavoidable. Work resumed the same afternoon. Samir wrote the man's name in big letters. He did not want him to disappear into silence. One weekend, Samir returned to the river area. The factory walls were taller, the water darker. The air tasted bitter. He stood there holding the notebook, reading names aloud. It felt like calling ghosts back into the world. An old man sitting nearby asked what he was doing. Samir said he was reading history. The man smiled sadly and said real history is often too painful for classrooms. Years passed. Samir grew older, his shoulders stronger, his eyes more serious. The notebook now filled with stories from different cities, different sites, different lives, yet the pain felt the same everywhere. One day, a local reporter came to cover a festival near the construction area. Samir took a chance, hands shaken. He gave the reporter the notebook. He did not ask for fame, only for the stories to be heard. The reporter read through the night. Faces replaced statistics. Tears replaced charts. He wrote an article not about buildings or profits, but about the invisible people who made them possible. The article spread quietly, not loud enough to shake governments, but loud enough to reach hearts. Students began asking teachers different questions. Who lost land? Who built this road? Who paid the real price? Some teachers did not know what to answer. Some changed the subject, but the questions had been born, and questions are hard to bury. Samir never became famous. No monument carried his name. But somewhere a child read that article and looked at a worker with respect instead of ignorance. Somewhere a student realized history is not only about rulers, but about ordinary people surviving extraordinary hardship. The river still flows. Slower now, darker now, but it carries memories along with water. Memories of farms, homes, hands, voices. Real history walks quietly beside us, in workers on buses before sunrise, in mothers skipping meals so children can eat, in fathers hiding pain behind tired smiles. It does not ask for attention. It only asks not to be forgotten. Schools never taught Samir's story, never spoke of the villages erased for factories, the workers lost in progress, the families drowned by promises. But the story lives anyway, in ink, in memory, in the courage of someone who decided silence was no longer acceptable. And somewhere today another child is watching land taken. Another worker is lifting bricks for a future he will never see. Another mother is pretending not to be hungry. Their stories are happening right now, waiting for someone brave enough to write them. Because history is not only what is taught, it is what is lived. And the real chapters are still being written by hands the world refuses to see.